Hey everybody, welcome back to the studio side of the tournament here. Sorry about that. Hey, wanted to let you know we're going into a little bit of a break where we're going to do some post analysis of each of the games so far. The next tournament game is going to be around 21:50 Eve time. So just so you know, if you're trying to gauge when you're going to come back to watch more fighting, that's when it's going to be. We've got a couple people here in the studio with us. Asher's here for some post-game. Soth is here, and a bunch of other people. So what do we want to talk about first, gents?
First match, of course. Asher, what did you think?
We're talking about the very original first match?
Yeah, we might as well go through them, even if you don't have anything to say. We can just skip on to the next. We've got a bit of time.
Yeah, we'll just review them.
Sure. That was Bode's team versus Whole Squad. And I thought Whole Squad would go very far in this tournament, so I expected them to win. Bode bought a Balgorn comp with 2 bombers. He had an Oneros and a Fleet Hurricane, which was an interesting choice for an armor comp, but it worked pretty well. They went through the Whole Squad team pretty quickly. Whole Squad brought a Widow comp, and it looks like their jams didn't land, but they lost 2 jamming ships pretty quickly, and at that point, the jams couldn't hold. So it was over. It was over relatively fast.
But that was always going to be the case. Whenever you bring E-War, it's always down to whether or not you can get those locks off quick enough. You can actually apply those jams, whether or not those jams are successful. And it is really kind of like a Hail Mary play in many respects.
Well, this year in the Alliance tournament, you saw that after CCP introduced ECCM resistance to sensor boosters, you saw a lot less jam comps. It's just harder. It's harder to get the jams to work these days with sensor boosters having built-in ECCM resistance. So they weren't that popular this year, and you probably saw why in that first match.
Well, you want to go with the winning predictable formula. So, if you leave it down to RNG, then you're going to end up in all sorts of things. Personally, for myself, I saw that as a good play by CCP. As much as I love E-War, because I know how angry and upset the person on the receiving end is, it's not visually very spectacular.
And it's just very random, like you said. You want to talk about the second game, Jay and Weedot, or Butts Incorporated and Weedot?
Yes.
Yeah, let's talk about that one.
That was an interesting game. Jay, he came in with 1 less person, so 6 of the 7. So he brought a heavy comp. He had a Balgorn and 2 Navy battle cruisers. He had a Harbinger and a Brutix. So he was against Weedot. I thought Weedot would probably take this one, and I was wrong again as Jay's team advanced. They brought a Fleet Typhoon Balgorn comp. So they went really heavy on the top, and then very light. They had a Blackbird that did almost nothing. Once again, the jams. They had a Purifier and a Crewer, which is a really popular ship this tournament, I believe, because it's so hard with 70 points to get people in this ships. So a ship worth 2 points, which is basically the lowest amount you can run, is going to be used a lot. It offers webs and newts too, so it's going to be a really popular ship. You saw Weedot running a Guardian. It's more common to see in Oneros, but the Guardian does have a really low SIG, so it has some things going for it. But Jay's Battlecruiser heavy comp just applied a lot of damage to the Blackbird early, cleared the Purifier, cleared some tackle, and then just beat up the Logi before his could die.
Well, you're saying that as if it was like deal done, but I mean, obviously, Furry Toes in Buttsink.
Yeah.
It's that was tanked.
Yeah, that was really interesting. The Fleet Typhoon was still alive, but I think it was a Rapid Heavy Typhoon. And it ran out of ammo with Veritas in extremely low structure. And what you actually saw was before the ammo reloaded, he killed them with a smart bomb. That's how low he was. But he still lived for about another 30 seconds, still applying damage. So that was really a hero Navy Brutix there.
completely. And obviously, the longer that something like that stays on the field, then the DPS from the opposing team, you really do have to commit to that when you see something that low. That
Yeah,
it's very hard to let go of. I'm sure.
very exciting. It was very exciting.
Right then, anything else you'd like to go on record for, like game 2, as it were?
No, I think that's all I got to say about that one.
Then who do we have for game 3?
Gee, who was that?
So game 3, there was a lot of jockeying for position at the start of that. It was almost 3 minutes into the match before any damage whatsoever was applied between the teams. That was very interesting.
Well, you had 2 mirror matches. Both teams were meant to pull range, and so it's always weird. Like when in boxing, when you have 2 left-handed fighters fighting each other, it can get very awkward. Sorry, a left-handed fighter and a right-handed fighter. So what you had there was two teams that were meant to do one thing, and they both tried to do it. And eventually, I think basically around the same time, we both said, "Well, we got to go do something."
And with the boxing kind of comment there, you mean orthodox and southpaw, don't you?
Yes. And so my team, I was flying Logi for that. There, we were able to get 2 reloads, so 3 complete cycles on my ASB. They primaried me. I got down to 0 charges, and I got far enough away from them that I was able to reload. And then the next time, their Bargas got a web or grapple maybe on me in newts, but I was able to hit reload right as I was going into armor and start cycling again.
I was going to say, I was watching that, and part of me, because obviously I've known you for a bit, I was suspicious whether or not you were even bait tanking.
The second time I let him run me down a lot to keep him on me, because we were killing their guys pretty well. I mean, it wasn't like there were ships left alive at the end of the match, so but we were able to sort of keep them focused on me long enough that we killed their Logi. And then once the Logi is down on one side and it's on the other, especially on these mirror matches, that's when it all breaks. And so I was able to live until I would have died if that match had gone on 10 more seconds, but we were so far ahead at that point. It was.
I must say, I was actually quite impressed with the showing there by Asian squad.
They're really good pilots. Yeah, there was. And I can speak for this for us. We had so much, butterflies. Our stomachs were churning, and after the fight, we were just giddy. I mean, it's such a high. We really enjoyed it, and before the fight, everyone was like kind of nervous. You could hear it in their voices. So it was a great experience.
Excellent. I see that I think we've got Jay with us now as well. Is that right, Jay?
Hello.
Oh, you're sounding quite sexy today. What's up with you?
Oh, I've been sick for a few days, but I managed through it. I was yelling pretty hard during the match.
I must say, it kind of sounds a little bit like you're going through puberty again.
Well,
or is it puberty the first time?
It's probably the first time.
So, have you been able to watch any of the matches as well at the moment, Jay? Or, how have you found the show so far?
I've been watching the matches very closely, and we've made a few adjustments to our comps.
Okay, so did you see the Space Violence versus Thunderstruck game?
I got up like 2 minutes before it started and came back, and there was 3 dudes, and I was like, oh, they must have bugged the board out because half of them had died and whatever. But no, they just bought 3 dudes.
Yeah, I think with that one, unfortunately for Thunderstruck's team, well, basically, yeah, you know what we're all like in the Imperium. We don't always kind of get our stuff together, and I think they fell foul of that one. So let's not kind of dwell on that one too much. What about the V4 Der versus Bomberwolf game?
I didn't actually watch that one. I was outside.
One thing about that match is that Boat seems to have a very strong comp. He brought the exact same thing. And what was surprising about that match, that was more of a comp win, you would say. V4 Der brought a By the way, escalating entropy is just lots of Nyx and Erebus, so I don't know who they're losing them to, but
The
someone's-
initiative.
Oh, really? So our boys are
Yes.
popping them. All right, go initiative.
Sure, shop sec.
So V4 brought a Hugin, which was an interesting choice. It's a lot of points for a recon, and yeah, it gives you the long webs, but they didn't really have a lot of damage to apply with the webs. They had a Claymore, probably run heavies, and that can benefit the webs. Sleipnir artillery can also benefit, yeah. But their other two choices were other than their Logi, which was Scimitar. They ran a Talwar and an Algos, which is very confusing. You never really see those ships in a tournament environment. Maybe a Talwar every now and again. But with a T1 drone limit, an Algos is a really unusual choice. So they lost their Hugin really quick, and Boat just ran through them. Boat had 2 bombers, and really what helped Boat there a lot was he had a Daredevil. The Daredevil got in there, grabbed the Scimitar, put the 90% web on it, and then the bombers and the battleship just applied tons of damage and took that Scimitar out so fast. It was unbelievable how fast it dropped.
Yeah, well, the bomber damage that you can get, particularly if they do run with that polarized fit, is daunting to say the least. I'm sure.
Yeah, if you're going to run a Hugin, you need to get that web quickly on like that Daredevil or something, and have your Talos and Algos kill it. And they did not do that.
Okay, so moving on to the match that we've just seen then, 13 legs, 65 toes versus Wildly Inappropriate.
Okay, so I said earlier I thought whole squad would go far. This was the first elimination match in the losers bracket. Or do we have another more sanitized name for it?
No, that'll do, whatever.
Losers bracket? Okay. So Wildly Inappropriate went with a similar comp to what they had brought before, but they changed out the Fleet Typhoon and became and then you had whole squad or 13 legs. They went away from the jam comp and went to a more traditional Balgorn comp. But what was really confusing here was whole squad's comp looked good, but their Sweeple and Confessor flew straight at the enemy fleet. They covered 50 kilometers, no transversal, just dead on, and burned out of the range of the Logi. The Sweeple just burned straight and got popped super quick. The Confessor was going straight. He got into structure. He made a turn, which gave him some transversal. He was able to get reps, but it was already too late. He'd already gone too low, and so the next volley got through, and he had no buffer left. It was really poor piloting, and I expected a lot more out of whole squad. I was surprised at
Do you think that it was like seeing that Blackbird on field? That was the bit that basically got 13 legs to kind of like rush off in that direction to actually deal with the Blackbird first, because that's definitely what they were shooting first.
It's a good question. Whole squad clearly thought that jams were a very powerful tool, and so maybe they wanted to get in there quickly and grab, not let that guy move, so they could apply damage to it early. We could probably ask Dodd later what the overall tactic was, but just once they lost those 2 ships, that was they were done. And the problem with the 7-man format with the 70 points is that it's a lot harder to get a tackle onto these comps because the battle cruisers, battleships still cost the same, but your pool of points is down to 70 from 100. So you could spend 70 points before and spread the rest out of tackle on a 10-man team, but on a 7-man team, you still spend the 70 points. It's really hard to wedge in those tackle ships. So if you're running like a Confessor and a Sweeple and a Hound, you're basically spending a lot of your points on tackle. And if you do that, that's fine, but you have to do it in a way that it lives. We've seen some tackle going around the edges, then diving in at the appropriate time to grab a scram, grab a web, and apply the damage. But you can't just sort of suicide it. And then Dodd's saying in there that the plan was to kill the Blackbird because he was getting jammed. You saw that he was getting jammed because his Balgorn was almost never neuting. And I guess they didn't run an ECCM or a sensor booster, which is probably a mistake in this meta.
Yeah, well, it's there again, I think it's a little bit of a learning experience for all of us because up until relatively recently, we weren't necessarily planning on doing this. If only we'd actually got into the CCP one, I'm sure that we we would have been happy with actually doing that. But I have to say, this has like been good fun so far and a learning experience for us all.
Dodd says he had ECCM, but my guess is that since Balgorns was shown to be very popular, a lot of people are running, maybe double or triple RMR jams.
So would you kind of say that obviously we're only running 7-man, that really kind of does change significantly the competition, because when we see like the 10-man matches running, there is definitely, you can see like a DPS element, you can see a logi element, you can see a support wing element. Yeah, exactly. And that's obviously diluted greatly when it comes to 7-man teams.
Yeah, you spend so much points getting your links and your logi and then maybe one battleship that you have very little left to spread out. So getting a good comp is probably 50% of the battle, and then flying it's the other half. So you'll see that like I said, tackle is at a real premium in this tournament, and that's why you're not going to see a Sweeple Confessor that often, because you just have to give up so many points to do that.
I do know though that you didn't actually bring a battleship, did you?
We did not. That was kind of you'll see that was sort of the conclusion that we came to, was that maybe battleships are overvalued in this small of a comp.
Oh well, it worked very well for you, obviously. So I'm kind of guessing then. I don't want you to kind of like tip your hat too much. I'm sure you've got a surprise up your sleeve or two for like future matches, particularly as we get further down the line. But from what you're saying, it's like battleships. Not all they're cracked up to be in this format.
Well, you can. You've seen battleships. You've seen high damage Barghest. But because of the lack of tackle, you had a hard time applying the damage. And then you see the Balgorns, which offer a lot of control and have a point reduction. So that's probably why you're going to see many Balgorns in this tournament, because of the control they offer and the less points. When points are at a premium, for instance, if you can't fit your 7th man in a ship, you can go from a pirate battleship to a Balgorn. Now you've got 2 points for a crewer. So now you have a 7th man, and you can totally change your comp that has newts and webs and is a good tackle ship. So that's why Balgorns are going to be probably very popular during this tournament.
The battleships allow you to fit some extra tank and those sorts of things, but it doesn't really affect you that much if you never use those hit points as well. The difference between 100 and 200 hit point, 200,000 hit points is nothing if you can rep with only 100 hit points. It's just wasted. So you either apply that as more DPS on the ship, or you take smaller ships and bring more ships that can do more DPS.
Yeah, exactly. If you look at the Alliance tournament meta and compare it to this one, it will be different. Just by virtue of the fact of having less pilots and the point total being lower, you're going to see some changes, and it'll be interesting to see as we go on what teams have up their sleeves. I have a feeling that some teams are just going to be happy with their comp and run it all the way through. Once you
think maybe teams like Oat's team will be a one-trick pony with his.
I think I probably. I mean, if I, man, as a competitor, it's hard to say that what I would do. I don't want to advise someone else, but
it looks like that's all we got time for. Actually, we're going to head over to the MTAC coverage now. All right, we're going to be going live with ERJ in a couple of seconds, so we'll see you guys after the break. Please ensure the MTAC fight is well watched, and if you're there. And we're back in the studio for the Imperium tournament. We're up to game number 7. This is Thunderstruck versus V4D, according to Moomin or Vader. Now, Thunderstruck didn't really have a very good showing last time. Does anybody think that that's going to change this time around?
I think maybe enough time has passed to log a few more dudes in, surely.
Yeah, look, I think that preparation is what's going to make the match. Like, getting onto Thunderdome is a little bit difficult in itself, and then you do have to work out all of the slash commands and those sorts of things. just been advised by Sothrisil, the match will be starting at exactly 21:50, so that's in about 9 minutes' time. We'll throw over a little bit earlier, but I didn't get much of a chance to watch the Vader match. Does anybody, Moomin, how did that one go against Bomberwolf last time in Game 5?
Well, it was, for that side of things, this match could go. The Bomberwolf Vader one. Well, Bomberwolf were just like actually good.
Those guys have been on
to
fire
be
today,
honest
right?
with you.
Like they've been absolutely kicking ass. So
Yeah, I
they
mean,
went,
Bomberwolf definitely have, been like relatively kind of proficient in the way that they've been doing it. I think that also initially, you're gonna like see people trying stuff that we don't have kind of like a tournament experience realistically to the degree that some other people have. So this is all going to be like developing. And who knows? I'm pretty sure that by the time that we get tomorrow, we're going to see some really interesting matches because we do have some strong teams, some strong players here.
yeah, especially that Butt Tink team looks like it's going really well and is probably going to beat Reavers in the next match. But I guess we'll see about that. But Bomberwolf, I think they've set the bar really high. Like their first two matches are absolutely amazing. So it'll be really interesting to see what happens next, and also see what happens with this Thunderstruck versus Vader team. Like I said, the Thunderstruck team only came in with 2 ships because they didn't really prepare well enough for the match. But hopefully they've had enough time now to pull something together. And it can be a bonus to be sort of a wild card and people not know what you're actually going to bring.
Oh, very much so. It's like the element surprise is like obviously like useful. I mean, it stops you from going for that hard counter against a particular composition. So obviously, if you bring a hard counter, that's it. You've won the match. So all the time that you can keep the opponents guessing as to what you're going to be bringing, then they have to basically bring a composition that can deal with almost anything. And even then, there is no such thing as like a composition being able to like handle all situations. So you're still going to be risking stuff.
Yeah, and I think you get sort of pushed out as an FC or as a team captain. You get pushed out of your comfort zone because there's some FCs that like kiting ships. There's some FCs that like dropping supers on beacons. So like some people can sort of read that and sort of guess what's going to be brought. But then again, like if you're smart about it, you'll bring something unexpected and hope that it works for you.
Yeah, and well, we'll have to kind of see. Is like Thunderstruck arguably could bring a very interesting comp for their next match. Depends how many guys they get hold of.
All right, it looks like the match is ready. So we're going to go across to the commentators box very soon, and I guess we're going to take a really quick break. Okay, apparently we're not taking a really quick break. I assume that we're going to transition over, but that's not going to happen yet. So we'll continue talking about internet spaceships here. Let me see. There's so many things scrolling up and down on Discord at the moment. We're just
that's right. It's
trying
right. It seems so easy in your head, didn't it, Shimmy? When you were like there thinking, yeah, I'll be the star of the show. I'll be the anchor.
You
and
know
now
me,
it's come
Moomin,
to
everything's too easy.
That's right. But I will give you one thing: you are a better anchor than you are FC. Just throwing that out there.
Well, like I actually had to undock for this, so that was a bit of a change.
What is Saranen like nowadays?
Well, we're not supposed to be in Saranen anymore.
Well, you are back up in Dew?
Actually, I'm really thankful that that I have been undocking and those sorts of things. And this tournament, one thing that this tournament did for me was had me up at 2:00 in the morning and yesterday, and just as we were finishing up the preparations, a broadcast went out on Jabba for a rock wall that was tackled in Quirius. So I was actually around to drop some caps on that and bag a rock wall kill at 4:30 in the morning, just as the sun was coming up.
You mean that they weren't panic fitted? That's terrible for
That
a walk
was
not
not
to have
panic
that.
fitted as well. I think it was tackled by like a frigate gang or something. So it was good to be able to go and help them out.
Sounds good.
All right, now apparently
Alrighty.
we are ready to head over to the commentators box. So our commentators Moomin Amerton and Eric Asmok.
And hello again, everyone. So welcome back. And we have on the red team, V4 they have bought a Claymore, Slipnir, Scimitar, Hugin, Talwar, and Algos again. So it's interesting to see the Talwar and Algos there yet again, showing like very similar, if not the same format to what they bought earlier. And for Thunderstruck,
Oh, and for Thunderstruck, they've got 3 ships again. They got the Navy issue Dominex, a Widow, and a Balgorn.
And so thank you very much for picking up on that one, Eric. Yes, there again, it looks like Thunderstruck are going to be suffering a little bit in the numbers side. So they're bringing a total of 57 points. We've got... yeah, they're just landing on grid now. We're going to have to like see how they do. I mean, arguably, it's like the battleships. If they do get those jams off from that Widow, they can upset this. I mean, you know, they're not completely out of it. Do you think that's a fair thing to say, Eric, or am I just talking nonsense?
No, it is a
I'm
very
being
fair thing today.
Yeah, I just
Go ahead. I'm just getting a few texts from the wife, real life stuff.
right, okay. It's like, yeah, and always real life first. Yeah, so it will be nice to see if Thunderstruck can do something, pull the proverbial rabbit out of the hat, as it were. And with the match about to begin, we'll have to see how they do. But obviously, V4 already 13 points up on the match.
Well, we're going to see how this one goes. We got a few seconds before the start here, right?
Well, we're already like under, but Thunderstruck have an absolutely insane control bar again. So if they can actually apply that control, then they'll be able to arguably do something. We've got Ebor like relatively kind of like spread across the Claymore, Sleipnir, and also the Scimitar of V4 team. But that's interesting in its own right because the Widow's got a lot more slots available to it, so they may have had to double up on ECM modules there. We'll have to wait and see. We've got Newts and Nosses out there as well. Balgorn is being the main target though for V4 at this time. Also, very notable that Thunderstruck don't actually have any logic on their team, so they are literally just bound by either control and self-reps. That's all they can do. But that control bar, massive from the Thunderstruck team at the moment. You're okay, Eric? You've gone very quiet here.
I am. I'm getting pinged by Wild over here. I'm trying to give him a little response here.
I'm sure that we can all come up with a response for Wild. Feel free to type suggestions into chat as to what Eric should respond to Wild with. In the meantime, will you just let me know when you're back from like doing your sexting with Wild? And I'll commentate on the match still. That Balgorn is still hanging in there from like Thunderstruck. As I say, it's like the control bar from Thunderstruck is absolutely insane. They are hanging in there. Not really kind of like seeing the DPS being applied over on V4 team. But as I say, the fact that they're still hanging in there at the moment with just like 3 ships alone is actually remarkably impressive. RNG gods must have been good to Indy in that Widow when they first actually got those jams off. But obviously, larger ships are going to have a real tough time actually applying any damage onto the smaller ships, at least initially. And we're going to see how that cap warfare kind of like goes. It's like that Balgon is probably going to be like, focusing quite hard to break that scimitar. I would imagine they seem to be going for at the moment. ASB for the scimitar kicking in there. And we'll see whether or not Resnar is able to actually just get away from the battleships from Thunderstruck. But, doing the speed that they're doing at the moment, only 120, that's not really going to be fast enough to pull away from the battleships.
Yeah, I mean, it's a nice slow match, isn't it?
Well, it's definitely developing in an interesting way. It's sort of like, it's not the collapse that we saw from Thunderstruck earlier on, despite them being massively outnumbered, down on points, down on slots. Everything was kind of stacked against them. But here they are, they're still hanging in. And, they are making arguably progress. If they can crack that scimitar, then they can actually start to apply damage out to others. Now, the fact that we've seen the ASB of Resna already used, it means that, they are taking damage. There is the potential for them to crack that. Part of it will depend on reload time as though coming from the battleships. Yeah, you can chuckle away there to yourself, Eric. It's like,
No,
that's
I'm getting the wild barrage.
Right, okay.
We got to bring him in. He's prepping for his next match. He'll be back.
I don't know. How much has he been drinking today?
I don't know.
Right, okay.
I don't track.
Yeah, you always feel we're playing Russian roulette, depending on how much Wild's been drinking.
So yeah, it looks like they're putting some pressure on that Balgorn.
Yeah, very much so. With down into low armor now, Neshul, I mean, it's great stuff that they've seen, but it's like, are they going to pull something out of the tank here? Is sort of, are we going to see whole tanked ships? That's a big question for me. They've been applying damage to the Balgon. I haven't seen necessarily a great deal of reps coming back through, but that's a lot of EHP that they've actually got there. So still waiting to see how that pans out.
No, it's working its way into structure. We're going to see something here. It's either going to collapse or it's going to hold.
Well, it's going down still. It's 55% structure, and that's continuing.
Yeah, that's the end.
Down. Yeah, it's looking like that could be the end for the Balgon, and bam, there we go. No more Neshul, I'm afraid. So that leaves just 2 ships available to Thunderstruck. The big question now is obviously there was lots of new damage being applied from probably the Balgon, but we can also see that the Scimitar has increased speed now. So that is likely to help that Scimitar mitigate damage, get out of the way from the Navy Dominics and Widows still remaining for Thunderstruck. We now have the Widow from Indy that's being worked on next. Webs have optimistically been applied to the Navy Dominics of Ono Borax. Generally speaking, it's battleships aren't renowned for running away too well. But yep, the Widow is being worked on next at this time, and it's going to be really hard for damage from Thunderstruck out to the V4 team. All the time that Balgon was alive, they had a chance. That looks to be going out the window now. But we're coming up to 2 minutes, 40 seconds remaining. We'll just have to see how long it takes V4 Der to actually chew through the remaining effective health that Thunderstruck have.
Yeah, we'll see. It looks like it's going right into structure. I think it's just going to melt right down now.
Yeah, and Indy is already calling good fights
There he is.
from local chat, and there he goes. So the V4 Der team now have slightly over 2 minutes in order to just take down Oh No Borax. They're already kind of like relatively kind of like locked down, only doing 97 meters per second. It's unlikely that Borax is going to get out of this one.
No, I think it's going to be a clean wipe here for V4. Since we're not allowed to say it the other way, right? When you're on the
Yeah, no,
on the
they're
line.
disgusting, horrible.
So yeah, it's another beatdown for Thunderstruck. It was an interesting composition, but it didn't work.
It was a close one, though. I mean, it's like at a point when they were working on that scimitar, I really did start to wonder, can they do this? Because if they break that scimitar, there's like that would have been a completely different story unfold here for sure.
Absolutely. How much time we got left here?
1 minute 10 seconds, so it's like we're almost getting there. But there again, Borax is being chipped away at. We'll have to see how well he does. But there again, great showing from like V4 Der is there again, only bringing 6 members from a possible 7, so committing quite hard there again to their actual composition, and but they've kind of arguably got a little bit lucky in the opposing team here, but they still did what they needed to do. And as I say, that scimitar from Razna, I was worried there for a second.
Yeah, he seemed to be holding up though. So, I don't know.
Yeah, but once you run out of ASB charges, it's like that's a long time on a reload, particularly if the battleships have timed out their reload themselves. To actually get the end of that cycle, and they can apply damage continuously. So, but there we go. Match is over. 51 to V4 Der and 0 to Thunderstruck, and back over to the